Well, the presidency has rejected reports that it's commissioned the redrafting of emergency regulations. So what does that mean? To talk to us about her story, we're joined by senior specialist reporter at Report. That's Erica Gibson. She's in our Pretoria studios for us this morning. Erica, a very good morning to you and thanks for your time. Just a very brief outline for those who are not familiar with the story, what your investigations have actually uncovered.
Good morning, Yuveka. I got to know about it just after October. On the 25th of October, the Defence Legal Division had a workshop to look at the Defence Force's contribution to the draft regulations. And it rang a bell because I couldn't quite figure out what the significance was of actually having the regulations drafted now. It then turned out that there doesn't seem to have ever been regulations since the Act actually were put on the books, the law books, in 1997. So for some other reason, someone saw the need that it's now necessary to actually draw up the regulations. And that was the essence of the story where I started off.
I mean, one would have to ask at this point, Erica, is, you know, why would they be doing it now? Are they expecting that there's going to be some kind of trouble? Did you get a whiff of anything in that direction?
Well, that was the frustration. I didn't get, the Defence Force or Department of Defence wouldn't say exactly what was going on or why it was doing it. It just said that it's a contributory department and that it's part of an interdepartmental task team which is busy with the drafting of the regulations. So the Defence Force was just one small little role player. At the time I didn't get any response from the presidency. I asked who gave the order or who asked for it to be drafted and why now after 20 years. We know that the Constitution is there, and yes, this is not all alarm bells and whatever else, because the Constitution is still the utmost law that governs, and everything else. It can't overrule what is determined in the Constitution. But the question remains why and who considered it necessary to now the regulations set out who does what under which conditions and so on. And what is painfully clear at this stage of the draft regulations is that it's significantly vague. So it's a sort of a one-size-fits-all.
Well, just give us some idea. It is a 31-page document, and it is, you know, a bit of a long read. But just from what you found out, what does it say? What would happen? What measures will be put in place if there were to be a state of emergency?
Yeah. I got some legal brains to actually help me interpret, because I'm not legally qualified, to help me interpret what it actually says. And some of the examples, for instance, is that it can intervene in any sort of meeting, be it private, be it in a public place or whatever, and declare it illegal at the time. It still gives significant powers to the security forces to arrest and detain. For whatever reason, if it's some action is or some person is accused of being a threat to public stability or public order at the time, someone or an institution or some organizations, internet can be switched off. So it's pretty far-reaching, depending on what exactly you want to do with it.
Well, as vague as it is, Erica, it's kind of giving me pictures of a pre-94 somewhere in the 80s, you know, scenes from there, also what's been happening with our neighbors over the past couple of decades as well. So what, those legal minds that you consulted, what are their concerns around this?
Their concerns are that, in the first place, that civil society doesn't seem to be part of the drafting of the regulations. The one example that Jacob van Garderen from Lawyers for Human Rights used was during Marikana and the xenophobic attacks we had a few years ago. There were wide-ranging criticism towards the police for acting with too much force and in the way that it actually conducted its operations. Now, the state of emergency regulations basically makes it even easier to be heavy-handed in whatever you do. So, in the first place, civil society plays a big role, and it has since '94. So, they should be part of drafting these regulations so that it doesn't become something evil, and that it doesn't sort of bring back what we all remember from the past. But that it's rather a definite a set of guidelines as to how not to do things and how not to overstep the lines, even though there might be an emergency of whatever kind.
All right, thank you very much. It is a draft for now, will be up for public consultation. One hopes. That's Erica Gibson, who is a senior specialist reporter at Report.